Um, Welcome everybody. How are you doing today? It's so very nice to have you here. And I really hope that all of you are doing well. I'm doing well. I'm still wearing my mask when I go outside, which I'm sure many of you still do as well. So today I wanted to speak a little bit about trauma and about the role of the nervous system and brain in awakening and freedom, which is the topic of our upcoming 3-week program that is going to start this Sunday. And you have heard me speak many times, and I do speak a lot about the nervous system and brain when we are speaking about awakening, embodiment, and freedom. I speak a lot about the role of the nervous system because it really is the missing link between our desire for truth, which is what brings us here right now, and which is what brings us into this moment over and over and over and over again. So the nervous system being the missing link between the desire for truth and between our actual ability to be here moment by moment by moment. And I'm sure you have experienced that in your own life, in your own practice, that there are times that when past arises, that there is so much going on that it's very challenging despite our desire to be here, despite our willingness to be here, that it's very challenging to be here. And that is a combination of discrimination, of being able to recognize the past for what it really is, and a combination of that and of our capacity to be here. The capacity of the nervous system to be here and to experience the arising past, rather than just be overwhelmed by it or in reactivity to it or with it. And so often when unmet, unfinished tendencies of the past arise, which again, I'm sure everybody here has experienced, the arising past is going to affect our physiology, and the way we are going to experience it is through thoughts, certain types of thoughts and feelings, sensations, emotions. And so often when past is here, when reactivity is here, when these stronger tendencies of the past arise, there's so much going on in our experience that it's really difficult to know in those moments where to put our attention. And also when we don't understand how the nervous system works, or when we don't understand what trauma is and how to be present when trauma is present, it's going to be very difficult in those moments despite our desire for truth, or despite our desire to be here, our willingness to be here. And so often also when past arises, we tend to get involved, consciously or not, we tend to get involved with content. We tend to see things a little bit more psychologically, or even if you're not fully aware of that, we get pulled into trying to understand, trying to figure out, trying to, understand why, what, when, how, for what reason. And when we are, engaged in that way, when we are engaged with content, we really don't have it's not possible, it's physically not possible to be here, right? We can only do one thing at a time, right? So again, it's really crucial to understand, how the nervous system works, to understand, to learn to notice sensations, to learn to be present to it in a certain specific, particular way, so that the nervous system regains its capacity to be here, that it can begin to regulate. And so it gives us an ability to actually be present to what arises rather than just be in reactivity to it or overwhelmed by it. And that brings me to trauma, which is a very specific aspect of our nervous system experience. Trauma not so much being the events of the past, even though sometimes, like with any of the tendencies of the past, sometimes understanding of it is helpful, especially in the beginning. It makes certain connections in the brain. But trauma not so much being the experiences of the past, the difficult challenges, experiences, as much as it is really the charge that remains in the nervous system to this day. And that charge, of course, is still active. And there's a part of it that is called the vortex of trauma, which is why at times you will be going about your life and everything will be so, easy. And then all of a sudden you will be in this completely different state, so radically different. Right? That's the vortex of trauma. When it activates and when it pulls our attention, suddenly nothing is okay and nothing works and everything is very difficult. And to be able to understand that, to be able to know how to sit with it, right? And what to do when this is present. And most of all, recognize it for what it is. Recognize the trauma past, recognize the triggers, recognize the symptoms of trauma. Recognize this so that we are able to sit with it in a certain way. And so often when we are sitting in programs, in private sessions, we encounter that charge of the past, the trauma past in your nervous system, which really affects our ability to be here, our ability, our awakening, meaning trust in presence. It affects our ability to trust. It affects our ability to really rest here. It affects our ability to function in the world. It affects our embodiment of presence as well. So I want to be, very, very practical as we are working on this together or working through this together in our upcoming program. Of course, all of that is in the context of awakening, embodiment, and freedom. And, it's so key because it gives us yet another tool when past is present, discrimination and ability to be here, which then allows for the past to simply move through so that we can be here more. So I'm very much looking forward to our time together, and I want to invite you to join me. This is such an important part of our work together, important piece of information. And I'm really looking forward to us practicing that together.